Hello again from the shack of KY4Z, and you are looking at my Ted McElroy 1935 Mac key. And the 35 Mac key came along and was an improvement over the 34. If you're a fan of Mac keys, you know the history. And this one has the shallow V on the bars, on the contact bars. Now when I got this key, and I'll have to admit, you know, I've been a student of Mac keys. However, the fact that this was the only 1935 key I had, I bought it, and I believed at the time, I hadn't paid a lot of attention, I believed that the damper was incomplete. But it just has a, you know, it just has a round disc there for the damper. And I thought that was incomplete until I got looking recently, and I noticed that that's all there is. That's all there is, folks, that damper, except, let me turn this fella back around. The damper, and it's missing on mine at the time being, but I'll take care of that. See this screw hole? There's a screw that goes in there, and then a short metal tab. The tab actually is usually stored out of the way, down or towards the rear. And when you want to lock the pendulum in place, when you want to lock it in place, you bring that tab rotated up, and it holds that keying lever down against the damper. And then you can turn this key over on its side. Let's do so carefully. And operate it like a straight key. I don't know anybody who's done that. But I guess in a pinch, if you needed to, why, it's there. It was a gimmick. If I've got a bug, I sure don't want to use it as a straight key. But, you know, Ted McElroy apparently had his reasons for setting it up like that. Now you can see the longitudinal nameplate made of brass, and this is key number, serial number 5527, which is, if I remember correctly, was fairly early, at least early in the serial number list that I have. There are no terminal screws on the base. You had a couple of choices. You connect here, presumably for the hot connection, if you will, and you could connect over on this side of the upright for the ground. And now I don't have anything connected to it, but I have to tell you, I think that method would look it just kind of ruins the look of the key, without having terminals. And I think terminals were a fairly common addition to some of these early keys, just to neaten up the look. This key has, it looks like it could be an original paddle, but however, if you look at it, it only has one mounting hole, so it probably is not original, because this has, of course, get back on it, there are two holes there, and those line up real well with, let me show you what I'm working on here. Alright, where's it at? This is a replacement Vibraplex paddle from the vendor in Arizona that I buy these from. Hard plastic. It's not quite like the Bakelite ones of the original. But I have enlarged the screw hole. That its stock is a 440 thread, and I enlarged that to match the other hole. So now, and the holes, magically, these line up perfectly with the McElroy pattern. The two holes here that I enlarged, or the one of them, they line up perfectly. So what I will do is get a couple of replacement screws and some nuts that are shorter, and I will make another paddle to match this one. Make it just enlarging that rear hole. I've got several of these in stock, and replace this one with a double paddle as originally equipped. All right, but what I wanted to show you on this key was something that I wasn't really aware of, and that's probably Probably due to the fact that I haven't had a lot of. This is the only 1935 McElroy key I have. All right, on the other keys you have, I mean, Vibraplex, SpeedX, Mac key. The contact point for the dits and the DAWs are attached to the adjustment screw, and that's pretty universal, right? And not with the 1935. The contact point is actually, let's see if you can see it. See, it is attached to the to that contact bar, to the V bar or whatever you want to call it. It's attached there. This adjustment simply pushes that bar out, adjust it. So it's not really, this really isn't an electrical connection. It may be, but it's not intended to be. This is simply an adjustment. The electrical contact is on the V bar. So it's a little set up a little differently. Now you can see the gap right here. Let me adjust this back. There's, and the geometry of this key, the keying lever, you can see is shifted to the right. And I'm not sure that's not the way it came, but I am going to slide, probably put 2 or 3 thin washers in there to bring the geometry of this lever, let's shoot up, over just a little bit to kind of straighten that action up a little bit. That's my plan anyway, when I find that elusive round to it. And then of course replace this paddle with 2 reproductions that will be more like the original, I think. All right, now this, I really haven't had this key on the air. This is one of the original weights. It has the wrong adjustment screw. That looks like a Vibraplex unit there. All right, now underneath the, it has the, we're all familiar with this, the Mac key. Ted McElroy's pronouncement that this is a semi-automatic telegraph and radio code transmitter. When this cast was dated 9/34, which probably confuses more eBay sellers than it should. But they use the same casting for 34, 35, and 36, I believe. All right. Anyway, of course there's no hole for the lower pivot, and that's just the way it was. All right. Now, the early keys look pretty spindly, and I think that's probably if you look at the T-bar, look how thin that looks. Let me put this next to my 37 over here and see how beefy that T-bar looks. I mean, it's beefy. And you get over here to the 35 and it just looks a little spindly, a little thinner. But I don't know that there's any advantage of this one over the 35. I don't know that there's any mechanical strength there. I mean, we're talking castings anyway. I just think it's a little sexier looking. The 37 just looks a little sexier, and this one just looks a little spindly. But I'm not saying I don't like the key. And of course, on the 35 key, uses 2 tall posts here that the contact bars connect to, or actually don't connect to. There I am wrong again. That your contact screws are in that adjust these 2 bars. All right, and of course the serial plate is longitudinally mounted, and it's brass. A little bit of a twist there in the mainspring of the key, but serviceable anyway. I think the gap between the that dit spring and the contact is insufficient. As you can see, I can probably get a little bit of adjustment here. It may just require a little straightening, a little gentle bending on the mainspring to straighten it out, because you see it's got a distinct bend in it. Of course, there's always a chance of breaking it, and that would be very bad news to me. All right, well, that's it. I don't want to hold you up. I don't have the key on the air. I've messed around with it, but I haven't used it on the air for any appreciable amount of time. Anyway, it got a few things to do on it, and it will stay in as-found condition. I like this key, and really looking forward to getting it on the air. Well, that's it for this installment from the shack of KY4Z. 7-3, and have a great day.
Did da did it did da did it did it did da did it did